a big benefit to us in passing through the Timeway in our transit out to the moon. And it's rather odd to see it floating like this in Odyssey while it's playing the scenes of 2001.
April 13th, 1970. The mood could only be described as relaxed. Apollo 13, man's fifth lunar mission. The third, scheduled to land on the moon, continued its tranquil coast.
This is the crew of Apollo 13, wishing everybody there a nice evening, and we're just about ready to close out our inspection of Aquarius and get back to a pleasant evening at Odyssey. Good night.
13, we've got one more item for you when you get a chance. We'd like you to stir up your cryo tanks. In addition, have Captain turn you
Okay.
for a look at the Comet Bennett if you need it.
Okay. Stand by. Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Yes, Houston, we've had a problem. We've had a main B bus undervolt.
Roger, main B undervolt. Okay, stand by, 13. We're looking at it.
And we had a pretty large bang associated with the caution and warning there. And as I recall, main B was the one that had a amp spike on it once before. In the interim here, we're starting to go ahead and button up the tunnel again.
April 11th, 1970. Launch day. The crew of Apollo 13. Jim Lovell, commander and veteran of 3 previous missions. He had orbited the moon Christmas 1968 on Apollo 8. Fred Hayes, his first time up, lunar module pilot. Jack Swigert, command module pilot. 3 days ago, he was on the backup crew. Now he replaced Ken Mattingly. Mattingly had been dropped from the mission because he had been exposed to German measles. He would watch the launch from Houston's mission control.
Auto sequence initiated, flight.
Roger.
Flight booster.
Go.
S4B pre-press complete.
Roger.
Flight booster. S1C pre-press complete. We're on internal power and we're go.
Roger. How's it look, Econ? You got your space?
Looks good, flight.
Okay. MCC record us to flight speed.
Ignition, flight.
Roger. Roger.
Clock start, flight.
Roger.
Thrusters go, all engines.
Roger. Okay, Fido, how's it look?
Looks good here, flight. Good agreement.
Okay, Booster, how do you look?
S1C looks good, flight.
Okay, Capcom, we'll go on the ground. Okay, we'll go at 1, Capcom.
Get relieving, flight.
Roger. Booster, how do you look?
We look good, flight. We go.
Okay, Fido.
We're go, flight. Looks good here.
Guidance, how's it look?
Good, flight.
Okay, Econ, GNC.
Looks good, flight. Looks good, flight.
Okay, Surgeon.
Looks fine. Through max Q and we go, flight.
Roger, Booster. And go for staging, Capcom.
Confirming board out, flight.
Roger.
Staging, flight.
Roger.
Flight final trajectory confirmed staging.
Roger.
Flight booster, then board out was way early.
Okay.
Flight confirmed. Number 5 engine down.
Roger. Booster, you don't see any problem with that, though, do you?
Negative, not right now, flight. All the other engines are go.
The next step in the routine of lunar flight was to burn out of Earth orbit toward the moon. Then pull free of the third stage and dock with the lunar module Aquarius. At the controls of the command module Odyssey, Jack Swigert.
We're hard docked, Houston.
Roger, understand hard dock. Good deal.
They pulled Aquarius away from the Saturn third stage, the S4B.
Okay, I can see the S4B now at the hatch windows.
Odyssey and Aquarius moved away from Earth toward the moon.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
Flight guidance. Go guidance. We've had a hardware restart. I don't know what it was.
Okay. Houston, we've had a problem. We've had a main B bus undervolt.
You see an AC bus undervolt there, guidance? Or ECOM? Negative, flight. I believe the crew reported it.
We got a main B undervolt.
We may have had an instrumentation problem, flight. Roger.
And we had a pretty large bang associated with the caution and warning there.
The sensation I had, that I had felt a vibration accompanying the bang, not a large vibration or shudder.
Is there any kind of leads we can give them? Are we looking at instrumentation? Or we got a real problem or what?
We're reading 0 N2 pressure in fuel cell 1 and 13 psi on fuel cell 3 O2 pressure.
Okay, Barrett, what do you want to do? Open circuit fuel cell 1 and 3?
That's firm flight.
Shut down the reactance valve, and I asked for reconfirmation, since when you do that, it's sort of irreversible. If you shut one of these things down, they only can be restarted from ground support equipment.
Yeah, that's a good AC. And it looks to me you're looking out the hatch that we are venting something. We are venting something out into space.
Okay, let's everybody think of the kind of things we'd be venting. GNC, you got anything that looks abnormal in your system?
Negative flight.
How about you, Ecom? You see anything that, with the instrumentation you got, that could be venting?
That's firm flight. Let me look at the system flight as far as the venting is concerned.
Okay, let's start scanning.
Here is a bulletin from ABC News. The Apollo 13 spacecraft has had a serious power supply malfunction that could cause the lunar landing mission to be terminated early.
I assume you've called in your backup ECOMs?
Flight, say again?
Have you called in your backup ECOMs now? See if we can get some more brain power in this
We
thing?
got one here.
Roger.
At the moment, the astronauts are continuing to try to isolate their trouble. A late report says the spacecraft now is operating on battery power alone. All unnecessary equipment is being turned off.
Okay, now let's everybody keep cool. We got the LEM still attached. The LEM spacecraft's good, so if we need to get back home, we got a LEM to do a good portion of it with. Okay, let's make sure that we don't do anything that's going to blow our CSM electrical power with the batteries, or that will cause us to lose the main or the fuel cell number 2. Okay, we want to keep the O2 and that kind of stuff working. We'd like to have RCS, but we got the command module system, so we're in good shape if we need to get home. Let's solve the problem, but let's not make it any worse by guessing.
My concern was increasing all the time. It went from, I wonder what this is going to do to the landing, to I wonder if we can get back home again.
Okay, Ecom, I'm coming back to you.
Flight.
Go ahead.
I think the best thing we can do right now is shut the power down.
Right about then, it was quite apparent to me that it was just a question of time that the command module was going to be dead.
You don't want to get fuel cell pumps off, do you?
We can do that on fuel cell number 1 flight.
Okay, well, let's make sure we don't blow the whole mission. The thing that concerns me is throwing equipment. We had a problem. We don't know the cause of the problem.
Flight, I've got a feeling we've lost 2 fuel cells. I hate to put it that way, but I don't know why we've lost them. It doesn't all tag up.
Network from Flight.
Flight network.
Bring me up another computer in the RTCC, will you?
We got one machine on the RTCC, and we got dual CPs downstairs.
Okay, I want another machine up in the RTCC, and I want a bunch of guys capable of running D-logs down there.
Roger that.
What all this means is only speculation at this point. First, though there has been some tumbling or rotation of the spacecraft, the astronauts do not appear to be in any immediate danger.
I'll tell you what, GNC, can you get somebody in the back room to try to figure out what the equivalent delta V is we're getting, so that we can see if we can backtrack to see if we can figure out what's venting?
Roger, we'll give it a try, Flight.
Okay?
When I looked up and saw both oxygen pressures, one absolutely 0 and the other one going down, it dawned on me, and I'm sure Jack and Fred about the same time, that we were indeed in serious trouble. The only way to survive the situation was to transfer to the LEM.
Flight Econ.
Go ahead, Econ.
The pressure in O2 tank 1 is all the way down to 297. We better think about getting in the LEM or using the LEM systems.
I'd say this is as serious a situation as we have ever had in manned space flight. We've always called the LEM a good lifeboat under those circumstances. If at any time in the mission, however, the LEM had separated and we had gotten ourselves into a rendezvous situation, or the command module being around the moon, then what you state is absolutely true. It would be a fatal situation.
Tell me you from Flight. Go ahead, Mike. I want you to get some guys figuring out minimum power in the LEM to sustain life.
The accident had occurred 200,000 miles from Earth. Lovell, Swigert, and Hayes rode in the lunar module attached to a lifeless command module. Apollo 13 had started as a mission of scientific exploration. It was now a matter of survival. Since the command module was dead, except for the oxygen and power hoarded for re-entry, the guidance platform of Aquarius, designed to land on and take off from the moon, would have to be used.
The first milestone, and I consider this after the accident, I guess, more or less the survival now. The first milestone was to get alignment on the LEM platform. Alignments are important, you know, because without knowing exactly which way the attitude of a spacecraft is in space, there's no way to tell how to burn or how to use the engines of that spacecraft to get the proper trajectory to come home.
The position we are now on the Earth-Moon plane, we have to go around the moon to get back if we're going to use the DIPS engine. You would have had enough capability with the SPS engine, but of course we don't dare use that now. So we have to go to the back side of the moon and come back.
To get into the correct orbit around the moon, the crew had burned out of a trajectory that would automatically bring them back to Earth. They would have to get back onto a safe course toward Earth.
He needs to put his throttle to min also, Frank. Throttle to min? Yes, he's at 29% now, roughly.
This maneuver, again, was completed on time, and because it was a manual burn, we had a three-man operation. Jack would take care of the time. He'd tell us when to light off the engine, when to stop it. Fred handled the pitch maneuver, I handled the roll maneuver, and I pushed the buttons to start and stop the engines.
Aquarius, and you go for the burn. Okay, Aquarius, you're looking good.
Auto shutdown.
The first problem was solved. They were back on the path to Earth. But there were many other problems to be solved. From a building at Houston's Manned Spacecraft Center, systems experts coordinated the coast-to-coast effort to get the crew back. One of the big problems was consumables. There would be enough to eat and drink. But in space, there are other factors. Oxygen to breathe, electrical power to keep the spacecraft alive, water to cool the equipment and keep it operating.
What we'll be doing till we get them back on the water is concentrating on everything that is their lives are dependent upon at the moment, rather than worrying about the accident, because there's nothing we can do about that now. It appears at the present time that everything is under control and that we have a safe situation at the moment.
Hey, I want to say you guys are doing real good work.
So are you guys, Jack.
We are about 70 hours from home, and we think we have the situation in control. We've projected the consumables as I've described, and we have a plan for carrying out the rest of the mission, but there's going to be no relaxation at all as far as that goes from now until splash.
There was a key decision to be made before Apollo 13 went behind the moon. Where to bring them down. Their present course would take them to the Indian Ocean, where recovery would be difficult. A burn to bring them home quicker would take them to the Pacific Ocean near the recovery forces. Bringing them home even faster would place them in the South Atlantic, again away from recovery forces. It was decided to take them to the Pacific.
We've run these simulators both here and at the Cape and at the contractors that continuously ever since last night. We've tried to simulate virtually everything that we've had the crew to do that is non-normal that they've done, and we've proven most everything that we've been able to run on the simulator prior to passing it up to them. There may be some details we haven't done, but at least we've checked the feasibility of everything we've done, and we'll continue to do that.
They passed 137 miles from the moon. For Lovell, it was the second time that he had seen the moon so near. But there was no time for contemplation. There was another critical burn coming.
Okay, let's get the
And in Houston, the newsmen poured in to tell an anxious world the story.
Well, that was going along with the ignition.
Shortly after Apollo 13 had separated from the Saturn third stage, the stage had been sent onto a trajectory toward the moon. Its impact would be recorded by the seismometer left by Apollo 12.
By the way, Aquarius, we see the results now from 12's seismometer. Looks like your booster just hit the moon and it's rocking it a little bit. Over.
Well, at least something worked on this flight. I'm sure glad we didn't have a limb impact, too.
Jim, you go for the burn. Go for the burn.
Roger, understand. Go for the burn.
Guidance okay?
We're good, flight.
Control okay?
We're okay, flight.
Tell me we're go, flight. Inco okay?
We're good, flight.
Ground confirms ignition.
We're burning 40%.
West Houston, you're looking good.
Roger. Shut down.
Roger, shut down. I say that was a good burn.
Roger, now we want to power down as soon as possible.
Understand.
To conserve the electric power and cooling water, the crew shut down all but the vital, life-sustaining systems of the LEM.
I think the LEM spacecraft's in excellent shape, and I think it's fully capable of getting the crew back. I think, as we have found before, every time we've put the LEM spacecraft to a test, it's always done much more than it was guaranteed to do, and I think this is a good case in point.
Conserve the consumables, cooling water, electric power.
The LEM water gun was leaking, and we shut that off. I guess it leaked about a quart of water, I would estimate. But it took me about 2 days to get my feet dry, and of course, I think you were all aware that the temperatures were going down in both vehicles, and it's made for very chilly feet for a couple days.
Lord, your astronauts will come back safe.
If I may be serious for one moment and ask the entire audience for a moment of prayer for the crewmen of the Apollo 13. We'll hold silence for a moment, please.
RCS-A stands at 62% and B at 62%.
I feel we've gone a hell of a long time without any sleep. We have to start thinking about getting people back to sleep again because I didn't get any sleep last night at all.
Command module just slowly kept going down in temperature until I think just prior to reentry, it was down to about 38 degrees. And along with that, there was a sort of a chilling coldness. The walls were perspiring, the windows were completely wet, and it wasn't too healthy. I recall that we went in there to get some hot dogs one day, and it was like reaching into the freezer for the food.
So if you want my opinion of how they handled the situation when it happened, they handled it exactly like we'd expect them to. They were about as well on top of it as anybody could be, knowing what we knew, which isn't very much, I'll have to admit. but I think they did everything right within the knowledge that was available to us in a timely fashion, which is what all we expect of them. I think they did a beautiful job of it.
We actually had a third little sleep restraint, which Fred then put on and buttoned up and kept a little bit warm.
The astronauts faced another problem, their own exhaled breath. The lithium hydroxide chemical to take carbon dioxide out of the air was not sufficient in the lunar module. They would have to adapt the canisters from the command module to fit the hoses in the LEM. On the ground, an adapter was fashioned from materials the crew had available in the LEM. Cardboard from a checklist, plastic bags, and tape. After checkout in an environmental chamber, the directions for construction were sent up to Aquarius.
At this point in time, I think the partial pressure of carbon dioxide was reading about 15 millimeters. And we constructed 2 of these things and put them online, and I think within an hour, the partial pressure of CO2 was down to 0.2.
So you see that survival now became one of initiative and ingenuity, and it was one which the ground continually helped us along. We had all kinds of people on the ground trying to think up ways of extending our lifetime.
There would be still another burn, a mid-course correction to get Apollo 13 into the narrow corridor through the atmosphere for a safe return to Earth.
We're at burn attitude, flight.
Knowledge.
Ignition. Thrust looks good. Shut down.
Hang in there, it won't be long.
There were moments when I didn't know how much consumables we had, whether we could make it back or not, but in a situation like that, there's only one thing you can do. You just keep going, and you just keep thinking up where you can get more consumables. And so that's exactly what we did.
On April 17th, they prepared for re-entry. After a small course correction burn, they jettisoned the damaged service module.
FM,
Copy that.
and there's one whole side of that spacecraft missing.
Is that right?
The whole panel is blown out, almost from the base to the engine.
It's really a mess. Man, that's unbelievable.
Next, they got back into Odyssey to jettison Aquarius prior to entry into the atmosphere.
Left jettison.
Okay, copy that. Farewell, Aquarius, and we thank you. Okay, LOS in a minute or a minute and a half. At entry attitude, we'd like Omni Charlie. And welcome home.
Thank you.
Odyssey Houston standing by, over.
Okay, go over.
Odyssey Houston, we show you on the mains. It really looks great.
Apollo 13, this is recovery, over. They're going through 5,000. Under Apollo 13, this is recovery, and your chutes look good. Apollo 13, this is recovery. We observed your RCS burn, over. The recovery, Apollo 13 is descending. Apollo 13 is recovery, over. Well, the one's placed in at this time, the three chutes are displaced in the water. 0 degrees, magnetic 3.5 miles, 0 Lima. 0, Roger. This 401, the command module is stable 1 at this time. So riding comfortably. The vertical axis are approximately 15 degrees. Swim 1, you're clear to for 3, the other 2 should swim water, Roger. Okay, clear to your wind line 270.
I recall, Captain, that when I spoke to you on the phone, you said that you regretted that you were unable to complete your mission. I hereby declare that this was a successful mission. From the start, the exploration of space has been hazardous adventure. The voyage of Apollo 13 dramatized its risks. The men of Apollo 13, by their poise and skill, under the most intense kind of pressure, epitomize the character that accepts danger and surmounts it. Theirs is the spirit that built America. Your mission served your country. It served to remind us all of our proud heritage of a nation, to remind us that in this age of technicians and scientific marvels, that the individual still counts, that in a crisis, the character of a man or of men will make the difference.
GNC. Go. Surgeon. Go. Procedures. Go. AFD. Go. Network. Go. Computer soup. Go. Raj, network, give me an Amber. RTC on AFD conference. RTC's on the AFD conference. Okay, all flight controllers, let's play it cool.
A new door to space opens. The space shuttle. Everything that has gone before in space, this magnificent treasure, is prologue. We are beginning a new and exciting age, signaled by the flight of Columbia into Earth orbit. Columbia is the first of a fleet of ships of the Space Transportation System.
Houston, Columbia, Hattie Reed.
The others to follow,
Roger, reading you loud and clear now.
names which evoke the spirit of our purpose on this new ocean. Challenger, Discovery, Atlantis.
And the monitors are all set up.
The working environment aboard will be quite ordinary. Yet the meaning of all this to us is far from ordinary.
Okay, Joe, I think I'm about done here. I'm going to head on downstairs and fix us something to eat.
Space Shuttle, taking as many as 4 satellites into orbit, has the capability of retrieving orbiting satellites, repairing them in space, or bringing them back to Earth.
Okay, Houston, Columbia, we had a good IMU alignment. Time was 4:55:57. and numbers are on the tape, and we did get the verification.
Roger, we copy.
Okay, Fred, 205 and 20,100. 20,230.
Historian James A. Michener, in an address to Congress, said, "There are moments in history when challenges occur of such a compelling nature that to miss them is to miss the whole meaning of an epoch. Space is such a challenge."
I'm James Michener. For most of my working years on this planet, I've been chronicling the rise and fall of human systems. If there is one thing I'm convinced of from years of studying history, it's that enemies do not destroy nations. Time and the loss of will brings them down. To see that this does not happen to this nation of ours, the United States cannot retreat from the challenge of our age. Each era of human history progresses to a point at which it is eligible to wrestle with the great problem of that period. For the ancient Greeks, it was the organization of society. For the medievalists, the spelling out of their relationship to God. For the men of the 15th and 16th centuries, the mastery of the oceans. And for us, it is the determination of how mankind can live in harmony on the finite globe we call Earth, while establishing relationships to an infinite space.
Okay, got EVVA on. We're ready for final suit pressure adjustment.
I am struck with wonder at the energy being expended by thousands of people, not only in the United States, but around the world, who have worked long and hard to overcome technical setbacks to make space travel available, not only to astronauts, but to anyone who wants to journey above our planet and work in space. The space transportation system they've developed introduces the decade of the 80s to the spaceship Columbia, the first of many spacecraft that will be propelled, not on the top of expensive one-time boosters, but by a space transportation system that can be used economically over and over again.
Our endeavor, guided and informed by a history of successes in space flight, is of immense proportions. 10,000 NASA employees at 6 research centers across our nation and other centers in Canada and Europe. The effort has been advanced through over 5,000 contractors, government and industry in over 25 states and 14 countries. It has challenged our creative and engineering genius in both its form and scope. That it has been complex and difficult is not deniable. But then what monuments to our progress can we name that have been easy? Some say it is our destiny to fill the wide vessel of the universe, a demanding role from which we must not retreat. The hangar we call the Vehicle Assembly Building is so large, its dimensions so vast, that Robert Goddard's first rocket launch would not have escaped its confines. Columbia. Through her we expect much. And now sits our expectation in the air, cradled, to be mated to the 2 solid rocket boosters and the projectile-shaped external tank. Today is the day the shuttle passes through the eye of the needle. Aboard the Elephantine Crawler Transporter, she journeys to pad 39. It is a trip made with deliberate speed.
site capability.
Launch control rehearses, polishes skills, techniques, procedures of that day to come.
Roger the right engine.
You got data back? I've got AC bus in this hall.
Wrapped in attention and detail, Columbia now is not many days from her destination. Two 15,000-foot runways, one in California and the other in Florida, will accept the returning ships when operational missions begin. Downrange, stations report, and Columbia is go for launch.
Read you also loud clear.
Another call.
That's affirmative. Read you loud clear. Key on all circuits.
Contact.
Go ahead, Houston. This is Mala.
Roger, Bermuda contact.
Bermuda.
Yargity Comtech, Houston. On one. Comtech, Houston, Comtech. Raj, let me give you a quick voice and keying check.
Okay, ready to loud control, Houston. Mark, 1 minute.
The countdown has begun. Ignition. After 2 minutes of flight, the solid rocket boosters burn out and fall away. They are recovered in the Atlantic 175 miles, downrange from Pad 39, to be towed ashore and used again for another shuttle flight. The main engines continue to burn, and the external tank, now empty, is jettisoned to fall into a remote ocean area. Space Shuttle is in Earth orbit 150 miles above our planet.
El transbordador espacial Columbia fue lanzado hoy exitosamente.
Imaginez une navette spatiale effectuant des vols réguliers.
أطلق اليوم بنجاح الأتوبيس الفضائي كولومبيا. أتوبيس الفضاء في مداره الآن. وذكر من لاح الأتوبيس أن الرحلة تسير حسب الخطة الموضوعة.
Hivi sasa chombo cha angani Columbia kinazunguka dunia yetu, na kwa wakati huu chombo hiki kinawawezesha wanasayansi wetu kuchunguza anga za juu bila gharama kubwa.
ये अंतरिक्ष शटल वाहनコロンビア号の搭乗員は90分ごとに地球を一周しております。そしてこの宇宙船によって宇宙交通の新しい時代に入ったわけであります。現在のところその飛行全体が予定通りに進行しております。
The astronauts, moving with the rotation of the Earth, fly into night and into day many times on each orbit. In a 54-hour flight, they will see 36 sunrises and 36 magnificent sunsets as they orbit above the planet Earth, looking down on clouds and life below.
Good morning. This is Matthew James in Melbourne. Re-entry poses one of the most critical moments for the crew of the orbiter as the shuttle slows from an orbital speed of 18,000 miles per hour. Aerodynamic friction, as the shuttle falls into the heavy atmosphere, generates temperatures of up to 2,800 degrees. The crew on the Columbia have now pointed the nose of the shuttle 40 degrees above the horizon. At this attitude, they now begin re-entry.
1,000 silica fiber tiles on the craft must reject and absorb this heat without transferring it to the interior of the spacecraft. At the Goddard Center, those on duty await word that contact again has been made to determine if everything...
The onboard computers, guided by Mission Control Houston and the pilots, fly the shuttle back toward Earth. A long, very fast glide from mid-Pacific to California. First at hypersonic speeds, then supersonic. Then, as the crew makes an approach to the landing at NASA's Dryden Center, the airspeed slows dramatically.
El transbordador espacial ha aterrizado en los Estados Unidos y todo parece estar en perfectas condiciones. Los astronautas tendrán un breve periodo para informar en los aspectos técnicos.
The orbiter will be taken to the processing facility for a complete checkout before its next mission. Progress is not a monopoly of the United States. The space transportation system will be used by nations of the world. Payload space aboard shuttle has been booked ahead by many nations. The signature of the program again reflects the words our astronauts left on the moon. We came in peace for all mankind. And once again, Columbia stands ready to be mated to the solid boosters and the external tank for another mission. Each orbiter is rated to fly up to 100 missions. Astronaut John Young, a veteran of the Gemini and Apollo programs, and the spacecraft commander of the first shuttle crew to go into orbit. Astronaut Bob Crippen, space shuttle pilot on the first flight. Both of these men experienced high-performance aircraft pilots. Young and Crippen, the specialists, analyze everything, the procedure of a good test pilot. Each step is questioned, tested. Solutions are tried, rehearsed, and the emergency is again simulated. This is the lesson we have learned in over 20 years of manned spaceflight. In the cockpit or the cabin of the shuttle, a pressure suit is not necessary. Work outside in the near vacuum of space requires a pressure suit. The astronauts flying in a military jet transport are given brief moments of weightlessness as the pilot maneuvers the aircraft. Bob Crippen experiences this as he works in his pressure suit. He must learn to use tools. The problem of handling things with his gloves on is compounded by weightless flight. Astronauts, mission specialists, and payload specialists have a preview of the exhilaration and joy of space flight. Survival school taught by the Air Force. It includes a bit of sky sailing and parachute training. At NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center, they experience underwater training with a full-scale mock-up of the payload bay. Crew members work out some of the problems they may encounter in weightless condition. They find that movement underwater, under neutral buoyancy, strangely approximates the conditions they find in space. In the next 5 years, more than 60 space shuttle flights have been scheduled. We will see Columbia, Challenger, Discovery, and Atlantis launching into space from Pad 39. The Earth and its terrain can be a barrier to communications, isolating people and cultures. For some nations, it meant safety and protection and an advancing civilization. Others have stayed the same. The struggle has been to live. Food, water. With satellites, a new age is dawning for all people.
Okay, everything's in position now. The role of the mission specialist really starts once the orbiter gets on orbit, and at that time, it's the mission specialist who's really in charge of the orbiter's mission. The mission specialist's role could be anything from opening the payload bay doors to using the remote manipulator system, which is a big 50-foot long arm that's made by the Canadians, to deploy a satellite, which we carry up in the cargo bay, or retrieve a satellite that might already be in orbit. If there's an experiment that's being carried along by the shuttle on this mission, it'd be the mission specialist that would operate the experiment. Anything that the orbiter might be asked to do on that particular mission, the mission specialist will be asked to carry that out.
Science places the creation of the universe 14 billion years ago.
Okay, Joe, the camera's zoomed in, so if you could go to free drift.
This shuttle-launched telescope may see galaxies at the very time they were formed, revealing the structure and history of creation. Deep space probes will add to our knowledge of our solar system, of the far planets, and the cosmology of the galaxies. In the coming decades, the shuttle will place networks of satellites into Earth orbit. We will manage our resources, our crops, our land and water, weather forecasting and communication on a global scale. Bremen, West Germany, where ESA, the European Space Agency, is building the space lab which will fly aboard Space Shuttle.
In Europe, we are well aware of the space activities taking place in Russia and in the United States, and we would like to participate in similar activities to benefit from the same technological advances.
Wava Ogels, a physicist from the Netherlands, a mission and payload specialist and a member of the European Space Agency.
There has been a large interest in doing manned space activities, and back in '73, they decided to build a space laboratory which would be carried along in space with the American shuttle. About 10 different countries, members of the European Space Agency, participated in the funding and development of this laboratory, Germany being one of the bigger participants. It has inside, in its pressurized module, an atmosphere which is very similar on Earth. Scientists eventually will go up in this laboratory to do all kinds of experiments in space.
Okay, Houston, Columbia, we're reading you loud and clear. Go ahead. Roger, we got that done. Well, let's see, Joe. We're about a minute from the burn. Minute from the burn, okay.
Space Shuttle will indeed be our workhorse in space, with as many as 4 satellites orbited on one mission.
Okay, we're all set. Into and hit it, pressure's good. Stand by for the execute.
the Department of Defense will have payloads on a third of the more than 400 flights scheduled over the next 12 years.
Space is not now an American-Soviet monopoly, and it will be less so as time goes on. We are approaching the point where the world community, and not just a few nations, is interested in space.
Dr. Isaac Asimov, microbiologist, author, and lecturer.
This is the information you wanted on the space shuttle.
Oh, thank you, thank you. We are entering a new era of construction, engineering, and architecture. Now, for the first time in space, we are going to be able to ignore gravity and build structures that will be strong for other reasons than simply passive resistance to gravitational pull. It's going to be a new kind of architecture. We're going to have prefabricated structures which we can just move into position and watch these structures grow before our eyes into new forms and new shapes. The space shuttle will serve the needs of the international community and will be one more strong binding force leading to world cooperation of nations, presenting a global front to the space frontier, one that will help everybody, all nations, give the Earth a way of forming a common consciousness of the planet.
The maiden voyage of the spaceship Columbia signals a new epoch. The ships of the fleet of the National Space Transportation System, Challenger, Discovery, Atlantis, and Columbia, will be launched and return from space on a regular schedule.